Hey everybody, welcome back to the Infinite Regression. Man, look at how infinite and how regressive it is. So much, and also so very much. But hey, we're not here to stare into the abyss until the abyss stares us back into our beady little eyeballs and tells us how great we are. Nah, we're here to play video games, and today we're going to play a classic on the NES. I'm talking about Balloon Fight. Now, Balloon Fight is an interesting little game. Comparisons to the classic arcade game Joust are unavoidable. Let's get that out there right off the bat. We know that this is basically Joust in a different package. I get it, got it, good, done. I said Joust. We can all breathe easy from here on out. And I feel like in a lot of ways, Balloon Fight has always been one of the unheralded and in many ways unloved stepchildren of the Nintendo Entertainment System universe. So Balloon Fight comes to us in 1985 in Japan, 1986 internationally, including here in America, and it was one of the first games released. It was part of that first group of games released, the black box games, as they are affectionately known. It was one of those. You know them by the black box with the pixel art on the front of the box and the name coming across in a slanty slant. And then that Nintendo seal of approval. Oh, and it'll tell you which series it is. By the way, Balloon Fight is part of the Action series, as opposed to games like Golf, which is in the Sports series. Anyway, those black label games, what a genius idea. Like, you really have to stop and understand how smart Nintendo was, because the video game market had just crashed in America. The Atari 2600, they had just taken all those ET cartridges in New Mexico and buried them in a landfill, which we now know, like, that had been an urban legend for forever. We now know that is 100% real. And thank goodness that we know that. But anyway, one of the problems with the Atari is that they over-delivered on packaging and under-delivered on gameplay. And if you don't know what I mean, look up the box art for the game Adventure on the Atari 2600. Because that game, while it is a game that I still enjoy to this day, and is one of my most played Atari 2600 games, the box art shows this dragon spiraling through this maze and whatnot. And there's a knight and a king, and it's a whole fantasy thing, and there's a castle off in the background. Yeah, it's this whole dungeon crawlery fantasy world thing. And then you put the game into the console, and your character is a square. A square that changes color depending on which level you're on. And all the dragons look like ducks. Yeah, somebody get that freaking duck away from me? Exactly, it's a dragon. It's supposed to be a dragon. Anyway, so yeah, you look at the box art for the Atari, and by the way, there's an excellent coffee table book of Atari art, and I highly recommend it. It is amazing. Like, there was some gorgeous art that was made for the Atari 2600. Too bad they didn't put all that effort into some of the games. I'm looking at you, Pac-Man, for the 2600. Anyway, but yeah, the NES, the smart thing they did with those early black label games was they put the actual sprites from the game on the front of the box. And they were like, do you want to know what you're going to get? We are selling you a game called Golf. And this is what the golfer looks like. He looks like, Mario let himself go. He's been hanging out with John Daly, smoking cigarettes and drinking brewskis on the back nine a little much, you know? But that's what it is, and that's what you get. You know, Kung Fu, that is the exact sprite that you get when you play Kung Fu. Super Mario Brothers, that box art, that is the exact game that you are going to play when you fire that thing up. Excite Bike, that is exactly what Excite Bike looks like, and on for all 30, I think, black box NES games. And Balloon Fight is one of those games. And so the box art shows 2 players balloon fighting and popping a balloon. It's actually showing footage from one of the bonus stages. And that's such a smart move that they did, putting the box art the way they did, and having the actual sprites so you see what you're getting. There's no failure to deliver on the NES because they were saying this is what the game is, and then you look at it and it's like, oh, that's what the game is. And even the games that they farmed out to other people, you know, there might be different box art. Someone, you know, like Konami might invest in a little fancy box art. But you flip it over and you see the actual sprites, the actual gameplay footage. And I love that. I remember looking in video gaming catalogs back in the day, and there was no contest. The NES delivered, and indeed over-delivered. Now, this is where we get into why Balloon Fight is a little bit problematic, and why it has been underloved. It's because of the time in which it came out. Now, Balloon Fight takes the classic joust formula of, you know, fighting in midair and popping each other's balloons and knocking each other off of platforms and all of that. Like, it takes that classic formula, it adds a few wrinkles to it, but ultimately, at the end of the day, this is still an arcade-style, high-score chase kind of a game. And the world had shifted. Like, we had already changed our minds on a lot of things by the time this game was coming out, because all it took was the first few levels of Super Mario Bros., and we were no longer looking at high scores. We were looking at, can you make it to the next level? Can you make it all the way through the game? The NES also gave us our first RPGs, you know, the Final Fantasy series, The Legend of Zelda, and a lot of other games. And so we got stories that were rich and interesting with beginnings and middles and ends. And so during that time, games like this, where it was just a simple, you know, one screen, high score chase kind of a feel that would have absolutely crushed on the Atari 2600. The Atari 2600 wishes it had a game that was this good in the controls, that looked this good, that played this well, and was this much fun. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't fun games on the 2600. Of course there are. There are many. I have many of them. I also have the crap games as well, because there are a ton of those on the 2600. There are there are not nearly as many crap games on the NES. Are there crap games? Sure, absolutely, you betcha. But as many as there were on the Atari 2600, not even close. Not even close. But, this game came before it came out after the seismic shift had already happened. It's like trying to be a hair metal band after Nirvana already came out, you know? It's not going to go well for you, Faster Pussycat. I'm sorry, it's not going to go well for you. And so, in so many ways, Balloon Fight has been the neglected, red-headed stepchild of NES gaming for a long time. But here's the funny thing about it, is that, I forget sometimes how much I enjoy the flavor of a delicious pork chop, seasoned well, cooked up on our smoker grill. I forget that. There are a lot of other things that we grill up, steaks, chicken breasts, all kinds of things, hot dogs, hamburgers, etc. All the things you slap on the grill. And I forget about pork chops. I do. But every time I have them, I'm like, man, why is this not something that we have more often? And that's what Balloon Fight feels like to me. Whenever I play it, I am absolutely having fun with it. See, here's the thing. While I'm recording this audio right now, I am not currently playing Balloon Fight. And I don't know if you could talk me into it. Because in my brain, I'm like, yeah, I played it. It's fine. It's whatever. But while I was playing it, I was having a great time. I just kept going. And I played all the game modes, and it was really, really fun. It's a really well-made game. The unfortunate thing is that it was a high-score chase game, an arcade-style high-score chase, in an era where that stopped being important. And that's just unfortunate for Balloon Fight because it brings so very much to the table. You've got, the fact that you got 2 balloons and all your enemies only have 1, but there's a whole bunch of enemies, and so it's well balanced in that regard. You've got the giant fish in the water. If you get too close to the water, he's going to pull you in and eat you up. You've got the fact that there are clouds that shoot little sparks everywhere. The same sparks that if you're playing the Balloon Trip, the third version of the game, if you're playing Balloon Trip, that's what you got to avoid the whole time. And it's difficult. It is a difficult third version of the game. There's, 1 player of the regular game, 2 player of the regular game, and then Balloon Trip. And man, it's not going to blow your mind in terms of like, oh, that's so much content. I can't believe, because we live in an era where we are spoiled for choice when it comes to gaming. That is absolutely true. But be that as it may, this was a lot of game for 1986. An absolute lot of game. And it's really fun to play 2-player. It is. It would be a really fun game to, pull out at a party and be like, hey, everybody, we're going to go Balloon Fight tournament. Like, I guarantee you that right now in 2023, you could get a whole bunch of people together and play this game tournament style, and everybody would have fun. That is, you guarantee it, because it's a very well-designed game that's very fun. It's just that it hit the wrong audience at the wrong time. And I'm not saying that there aren't people who didn't love this game. There are people who absolutely love this game. I was not one of them. Like, I saw this game and I was like, isn't that Joust? I have that on my Atari. If I wanted to play Joust, I'd play it on my Atari. Come on. What are we even doing here? It's Mario or nothing. Anyway, I think we've said it enough. That this game is very good, but it wasn't the type of game that was becoming successful in 1986. And that's unfortunate. But you know what? There's always time to go back and enjoy the classics. I did not play Balloon Fight when it was out originally. I played it years later. Like, I played it when I first started collecting for the NES in my 20s. So, in the early 2000s. And that's when I first, really played it and was like, oh, this is a good game. I missed a good game. And if you did not play this game in the time in which it came out, do yourself a favor. Play it. You can get it. It's out there. It's even on the if you have the Nintendo Switch and you got that online Nintendo Pass, whatever the crap it's called, it's on there and you can play it, and it's there. You can have it. And it's still fun. It's still a very fun game. Let me put a final score on it, and then we'll be done. Okay, so, Balloon Fight. We've talked it over. We know that it's underappreciated. We know that it's basically Joust. We know that it adds a few wrinkles. Is it the most amazing NES game you're ever going to play? No. Is it really good? Yes. Is it worth owning and playing? Yes, all of these things. Will it be your favorite game in your collection? No. So I racking my brain on this because I want to sing the praises of this game and give it its propers, but I also don't want to blow it out of proportion. So I'm going 7.5 out of 10 thick Mario golfers. These Mario golfers have been slamming beers and smoking unfiltered cigarettes with John Daly on the back nine, and is starting to show. Is all I'm saying. Starting to show. But 7.5 out of those guys, 7.5 out of 10 is a good number to round it out and say, like, hey, this game is good. It's not gonna blow your mind, but it's good, and you should probably own it because you can pick it up for super cheap. Like, they made 1 million copies. It's reasonably easy to get a hold of. And yeah, it's one of those ones where, like, you should have it in your NES collection if you collect for the NES. So, anyway, people, that'll do it for this one. I will see you in the next one. Okay, bye.